Alright. Cool. Alright, hello everyone. My name is Wesley, this is Woo Can Cook. Today we're doing a fried rice that I have been doing for quite a while. It's actually one of the very first fried rice recipes that I had written. And it's probably one of the more popular dishes that we've been serving at our food pop-ups, so it's been a fun one to make because this is going to be a fun stream to do because I can pretty much do this one with my eyes closed at this point because I've made it like 500-600 times now. So if you have any questions for me, feel free and drop your questions in the chat. This is also one of the fried rice recipes that sticks to, like, as far as I can tell, pretty close to what a fried rice is like traditionally. I don't think that there is one way of making a fried rice traditionally, but it is, in my opinion, probably the closest that you will get to like an American style fried rice, at least of the ones that were served at the Woo Can Cook pop-up booth. So let me know if you have any questions for me, feel free and drop those in the chat. I don't know everything about fried rice, but I know lots of stuff, so hopefully I can be helpful or informative, or at the very least entertaining to watch. As with pretty much everything that we cook on stream, there is a recipe video that lives with this particular version of fried rice. It was one of the very first recipes that came out over on the channel. So it is, as you might expect, very poorly colored and kind of poorly edited. But it lives over on the channel, and the recipe is also live over on woocancook.com. So if you are interested in reproducing this fried rice yourself, you can totally find that fried rice over on the YouTube channel. Or if you want, you can also find the fried rice pop-up. We're here in the Alameda Antiques Fair every first Sunday, and the Hayward Farmers Market starting on second and fourth Saturdays coming up. So you can also buy this from us at the pop-up booth too. It's fun. All right, so as with pretty much all Chinese food, I'm starting off by crushing and mincing. This is 4 cloves of garlic, which that is not very well chopped. This is 4 cloves of crushed and minced garlic that's going to go into our wok very first. You will see me referring to this as the aromatics of our wok fries. So that's my garlic starting off. And then this is going to be our ginger, which we're going to peel. If you've never peeled ginger before, or if you have gotten in the habit of peeling ginger, but you've been using potato peelers, I highly recommend using the back of a spoon because it's, first of all, it's safer, but also it's a lot easier, and it really helps get into like the nooks and crannies of your ginger if you have trouble like peeling with a potato peeler or something. So you'll notice that if I was using a potato peeler right now, I would have clipped my fingers many times. But since we're using the spoon, I'm not going to really be in danger of cutting my fingers, which I have done before, which is... Can I do a tutorial of how to style my hair? That I probably cannot do because I don't know how I style my hair. It's mostly just like, please stay out of my face. But if anyone can give me a tutorial on how to better style my hair, I would probably watch that. That's funny though. That's the first time someone has asked for that. So this is my ginger. We're gonna start off, that's what we would call a, I guess you could call that like a rough dice or maybe a large dice. But for our fine mince, what we're gonna do is run our knife through it as thoroughly as you can manage. I have oftentimes stopped early on my fine minces, purely out of the fact that I just got lazy. So if you don't want to come across large clumps of ginger, though you might want to be a little bit more thorough. When we do these in the pop-up booths, we also throw this into a food processor too. So if you're really lazy, you could totally food processor your garlic and ginger. How do I store fresh ginger in the long term? Yeah, so that's a good question. So ginger, because it is a root veggie, just like a potato, for example, it has a long shelf life. So this ginger that I'm chopping up right now, I think I bought it back in June. Is that right? Yeah. No, I think I bought it back in May. It was like in late May. That's how old this ginger is. But because ginger has such a long shelf life, this stuff, it will stay fairly fresh for quite a while, and it's not in the refrigerator. It just stays in my pantry. And if it does start molding, that's generally a sign where it might be time to throw out your ginger. So this particular ginger that I'm chopping up right now, it's right on the edge of it. Might be time to throw it out, but it's also almost gone too. So we can actually look at what happens when your ginger starts getting older and older. It basically starts growing more ginger, so that's what this is. It's sprouting into more ginger, which is crazy, by the way. That's not the end of the world. You probably don't want to eat that sprout because it's probably going to give you indigestion. It's not going to make you sick. It's just going to give you a little bit of gas. So don't eat the sprout. But otherwise, though, if you just peel around it, and it will stay for quite a while. So I have kept ginger in the pantry for months, like 3 or 4 months at a time. And it will stay for a really long time. So almost like if you've ever stored russet potatoes in your pantry for a really long time, same concept. But otherwise, though, I know, like, I used to refrigerate my ginger quite a bit, and I found that, first of all, it wasn't that necessary because it doesn't really go bad, but also, second of all, it kind of starts, doesn't keep it quite as fresh as I'd like it to, so I usually just leave it out, and that seems to do the trick. If you have trouble going through a pound of, or I think it's sold in a pound, yeah, if you have trouble going through a pound of ginger in 4 months, it's honestly not that big of a deal because a pound of ginger is only like $1, so. Yeah, bacon, yeah, cool. So that's my garlic and ginger. So here are what we would refer to very frequently as our aromatics. So this is my garlic, my ginger, and then this is the whites of my green onions. And in a lot of the Woo Can Cook recipes, you will see me referring to these 3 things as the aromatics of our recipe, specifically because we're looking for their aromatic qualities. Then what we're going to do here, so what I just did is I reserved our greens. So these are the greens of our green onions, which we chopped off and saved them. And then instead of throwing these in the wok fry, as we are going to do with our whites, we're going to chop these up really thinly and then use them as a garnish instead. So that helps because the greens of your green onions, which is this, they tend to be a little bit more leafy and a little bit more delicate than the whites of your green onions. So in order to keep them from sort of like wilting and falling apart in our wok fry, we're going to hold on to these and then save them for the very, very end. Yeah, you find it, yeah, dragon fire, yeah, that's exactly my experience too. So I find that it dries out a little bit faster in the refrigerator, which is sort of like the opposite of what you were trying to do, right? So the goal is to keep it fresh for longer. But when you cold storage it, it actually causes the moisture to suck up. So the same thing will happen if you like cold storage an onion, for example. All of those things, when you hold it in cold storage in like a crisper, what ends up happening is it actually starts drying up faster, which is counterproductive. All right. Do you like bagels? Yeah, I love bagels. So next up, this is what we're going to do is 2 like medium, large carrots here. If you don't like peeling carrots, you can also just use the frozen stuff. So you can, if you want to go out, you can absolutely buy frozen peas and carrots. I'm personally a big proponent of using frozen veggies in fried rice. But contrary to contradict that, I also always have raw carrots in my refrigerator, pretty much at all times. So anytime that I'm making fried rice, probably I'm going to use raw carrots because these are in my pantry all the time. But if you don't have carrots on hand, another good solution is to just get the frozen stuff, and that will work really well. When we do this at the food pop-up, we actually use the frozen stuff mainly because we don't want to chop 40 pounds of carrots, which will take forever. So what we usually do is just buy the frozen stuff, and it works really well. And I'm actually, so the reason that I am such a big proponent of using frozen veggies in a fried rice, the reason for that is because the way that the vegetables are going to behave in the fried rice, so what's going to happen is when you use frozen stuff in fried rice, it starts defrosting once it gets into the wok. So what we're going to do, we're going to be using frozen peas today. And those peas, once they get into the wok, they're going to start defrosting. So we're not going to melt our peas or defrost them in any fashion. So that means that they're literally going to go into the wok as frozen peas. And then they will probably only live in the wok on heat for maybe like 30 seconds or so. And the rest of that defrost time, it's going to happen in the bowl and basically while it's being served. So that's what gives us those super, super crispy pieces of peas and veggies. Is because they are essentially being served frozen, and then they're defrosting in the carryover cook. So if you are not using fresh carrots, you can absolutely do the same thing with frozen peas, and it will get you a really, really tender and like a really, really crisp piece of carrot. But if you want, you can also do it with fresh carrots, which is what we're doing today. What I do recommend is avoiding things like fresh or like canned things, so canned corn, canned peas, stuff like that. Tends to be a little bit less conducive to creating a crispy and like fresh quality to your veggies. Megan, yeah, great question. Yes, so frozen veggies it doesn't get soggy. That's what Megan asked. Yeah, so it will get soggy if you defrost it in the wrong way. So what we're gonna do, so my frozen veggies, they're not even sitting out right now. They're literally still in the freezer. So the reason that they're still in the freezer is because what we're trying to do is keep them as frozen and as crisp as possible. So if you were to say, for example, use canned peas, which are not frozen and are not in a hard or solid form, what would happen is that canned pea it would turn mushy in the wok fry. So it would go from like perfectly cooked, because the canned pea is already perfectly cooked, and then it would turn into mushy. So whereas with a frozen pea, it's going to go from frozen to crispy, and then it's going to stop right there. Ideally, it should stop right there. So yeah, if you've never experimented with frozen veggies in a fried rice, I highly recommend it. I do it with pretty much every type of vegetable. We do it with, so in this particular fried rice, we do it with peas and carrots. We have another fried rice that we do. It's a Hawaiian Spam fried rice. We use frozen pineapple. We also do a similar thing with corn. We use frozen corn quite a bit. All of those things, they work really, really well because they defrost while in the rice. So it might even literally be defrosting still once it's served to you in the bowl. And that's really useful because it gets us this really, really crispy piece of veg. Oops. Whoops. All right. You can't use canned corn fried rice. I have done canned corn before. Usually when I use any kind of canned veggie, what I'll do is I'll freeze it first. So I actually used canned pineapple at one point. And what I did is I opened up the canned pineapple and then put it in the freezer and let it freeze. And that's going to help us keep it. The bottom camera is upside down. Yeah, I think I fixed that. Hopefully I fixed it. I just noticed that though too. Thank you for catching that. All right. Here's our egg, which we're going to set aside. Let's get to our chicken next. Yeah. But yes, very good question though. Thank you for asking. Yeah, there are a few different tricks that we're going to be using today to kind of work around. So probably like the biggest problem that I ever have with cooking fried rice is that because we're cooking on a home range, you run into issues where the chicken or where like the veg or maybe even the rice itself, it becomes really, really soggy because what's happening is you're going to be cooking the fried rice on like a subpar heat. So this is generally a big problem that comes up with a lot of wok fries if you don't particularly know what you're doing. So what we're going to do is a technique that comes up in a lot of home cooking on wok ranges, or home ranges on wok cooking. What we're going to do is we're going to batch cook a lot of stuff in our fried rice today. So we're going to cook our chicken and then we're going to take it out. Then we're going to cook our bacon and then remove that. And then finally, we're going to add everything to the wok at the very, very end. And then sort of basically just toss to combine. So the only thing that's actually happening while everything is in the wok is essentially just combining stuff. Other than that, pretty much everything that we're doing is happening while the wok is relatively empty, and that's going to keep our wok nice and hot. Yeah. So what I'm doing right now, so this is my chicken thigh. If you don't have chicken thigh, you can also use chicken breast, or if you don't have chicken breast, you could use pretty much any kind of protein that you want. I've done this recipe with tofu a lot. It works really well. You can also do it with like lamb, or you could probably do it with ground meat. That would work really well too. My favorite is chicken thigh though, because it has a lot of fat to it. And that fat is gonna render into a lot of like thick, cohesive sauce bases, which is gonna be very, very useful. MSG tastes amazing in fried rice. Yeah, I have not been in the habit of using MSG super frequently in fried rice, mainly because we're going to be using a bunch of stuff that has a lot of MSG in it. So today we're going to be using, so the fried rice that we're cooking today, we're going to get to our sauce in a second actually. But our sauce base is going to be a combination of soy sauce, hoisin sauce, gochujang, and what's the last one? Oh yeah, and sambal lek. All of those things, they basically have MSG in them already. That's basically how those sauces are made. So what I have gotten in the habit of doing is mostly just avoiding MSG. Almost entirely. I have not used MSG as an independent ingredient in quite a while because I find that it doesn't really, most of the time it doesn't seem to need it because all of the things that I'm using, I'm cooking in MSG quite a bit already. And if we add more of it, it basically just makes it too salty. So I usually hold off on the MSG unless I'm doing something that doesn't have very many ingredients in it. So I did a larb gai, which is like a Thai lettuce wrap recently. And it did not have very many sauce ingredients. Basically, the only sauce that was in it was a little bit of fish sauce. And that was the first time in quite a while that I have used MSG as an independent ingredient. I'm making, oh yeah, Hawaiian fried rice video. Yeah, actually, that one is already up on the YouTube channel. We did that one sometime last year. You could probably find it. There it is. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so that's the Spam Hawaiian fried rice. We came out with a video for that quite a while ago. I might actually do a long form video though. That would be fun because that recipe video is really short. All right, so next up, I'm going to do a really quick marinade on our chicken here. So this is going to be 4 tablespoons of soy sauce. Plus, this is going to be half a teaspoon, just half a teaspoon of white pepper. And then finally, the last element, maybe the most important element in almost all of my marinades, is going to be half a teaspoon of cornstarch. So the cornstarch, it doesn't do a lot, but really, it doesn't add much in flavor. Cornstarch doesn't really taste like anything. But what it does do is it's going to essentially slow down the cook time of our chicken not by very much at all. It slows the cook time down by maybe about 30-45 seconds. And what that does is it kind of allows our chicken to sort of catch up on the interior so that things don't overcook on the exterior. So you'll see me throw in cornstarch in a lot of marinades like this. And that's just basically helping us keep our chicken and our meats really, really tender so that they don't turn really rubbery in our wok fry. So that's our chicken marinade. Ideally, we should be letting this go for about 30 minutes. It's not going to go for 30 minutes, but ideally, in an ideal world. All right, next up, this is my bacon. So we're using today, this is going to be some thick cut bacon. So the difference between our thick cut bacon and other bacons, you can see all of this fat right here. So this is all white stuff right here. All of that white stuff, that's all bacon fat. And that's going to be really, really important as we cook our fried rice, especially as we start doing our sear, because we want that bacon fat in order to crisp things up. Without that fat, things are not going to sear, they're just going to burn. So that bacon fat is really, really important. But in addition to that, though, lots of people I feel like are under the misconception that bacon, the flavor of bacon, it comes from the meat of the bacon, so bacon bits. which is actually not true. I think, in my opinion, majority of the flavor of your bacon, it actually comes from that fat. So the more fat that you have, the more flavor that you're going to get out of your bacon. So if you've ever just eaten like pieces of bacon bits, so like jarred bacon bits and stuff, you'll know like dried out bacon bits. I mean, it's tasty, it's still bacon, but it's not going to be nearly as flavorful as bacon that is fresh off the stove because you're eating all of that bacon fat too. Yeah, all right. So there's our bacon. Could you use pork belly? Yeah, we've been kind of going back and forth on switching to pork belly at the food pop-up. Lately, I think the only reason that we didn't really switch to pork belly is because I haven't been able to find a good source of like high quality but also affordable pork belly. But yeah, you could absolutely use pork belly. For those who are not familiar, pork belly, it's basically what we just used. I think the main difference between pork belly and bacon is that pork belly is not cured. So this bacon that we're using, I believe it's applewood bacon, and it is cured. You can also buy uncured bacon, which is literally just pork belly. But otherwise, though, pork belly is essentially just bacon that hasn't been cured and also hasn't been cut. And if you want, you could absolutely use pork belly. What would happen is you would end up with like larger pieces of pork, which might work well. In my opinion, I feel like it might actually start clashing with the pieces of chicken, but I'm not sure yet. I haven't actually experimented much with pork belly in this recipe. Yeah. When you add cornstarch to meat, that's a technique called silkening. Yeah, sort of. So the process of silkening, or like, well, I guess that would be like what silkening is. But like what most people are thinking of when you talk about silkening, what you're actually referring to is velveting, which is done with baking soda, which is a little bit different. Which I actually did recently in another recipe, and it works really well. Waste paint. Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, the food pop-up. It's so it's where we sell. If you're here in the Bay Area, so we have a food pop-up. It's called Woo Can Cook, and we've been selling all of the fried rices that are produced or have been released over on the YouTube channel. So this is one of the fried rices that we've been doing. And what we actually have recently started doing is putting the fried rice into a burrito, which if we have time and I feel like camera battery, I think the camera battery is going to be the limiting factor. But if there's enough camera battery life, we can do the whole thing. But what we do at the food pop-up is we take the fried rice that we're doing right now, and then we throw it into a big old burrito tortilla, and we serve it as a fried rice burrito, which has been really, really tasty. But if you're here in the Bay Area, that's at the Alameda Point Antiques Fair every first Sunday, and then at the Hayward Farmers Market second and fourth Saturdays. Only if you're in the Bay Area, though. If you're not here in the Bay, you're gonna miss us. If you're looking for more, I guess I should. If you're looking for more about that, that's at woocancook.com/eats. There's the website, and that's where all of the info on our pop-up is. I think the only difference in bacon is cured, and is it salted? I'm not sure actually if bacon is salted. Yeah, actually, that's probably how it's cured. It's probably cured with curing salt. That would add up. that math adds up. Cool. But yeah, same cut of meat though. So yeah, cool. So what I'm doing right now is I'm assembling my sauce base here. So this is going to be that was 4 tablespoons of soy sauce and 2 tablespoons of hoisin sauce. Next up, this is going to be 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. And then finally, maybe the most important ingredient in the whole thing, this is going to be 1 tablespoon of gochujang. Are we going to do 1 or 2? Yeah, let's make it 2. So gochujang, if you're not familiar, it actually comes from Korean food. And it is derived from the fermentation of chili peppers, so it is quite spicy. Well, not super spicy, but some people find it spicy. But mostly, to me, it's very, very sweet. It's got a lot of sugar in it, which is why it's so paste-like. But what that also means in particular for our purposes right now, what that means is that you notice that I just changed my spoon for a fork. Yeah, you can't click the links in mobile. Kind of annoying. I'm sorry. So what we're going to do is I'm essentially trying to break up those large clumps of gochujang so that we don't end up throwing in a whole bunch of gochujang clumps into our fried rice. So that's our sauce base. We're going to add that to our fried rice at the very end. And we're done. Are we done? Yeah. Let's go to the stove. All right. Cool. So over on the stove, I've got my wok heated up, but it's very, very cold right now. And then what we're going to do here, so you will not frequently see me doing this, but what we're doing is adding my bacon to a cold wok, and then we're going to bring that wok very gradually up to temperature. So what our goal here is to make sure that we don't burn the bacon. So by very, very gradually raising the heat of our wok, that's going to start, instead of cooking the bacon, or I guess it's still cooking, but instead of burning the bacon, what it's going to do is turn all of that white part of our bacon into liquefied fat, which is what we're after. So we want to make sure that that fire, it doesn't get too hot too quickly, otherwise that fat is just going to start burning, which is not what we're after here. So by raising that temperature very, very slowly, that kind of renders out the fat. So the key here, and the main inherent problem as well, is that because a wok, especially carbon steel woks, are very thin, so they don't have thick bottoms like a normal frying pan, what's going to happen is if we raise that fire too quickly, the wok will come up to temperature really, really quickly. So more traditionally, if you're rendering bacon fat, you will probably see this done in, say, like a cast iron pan or something that has quite a bit of heat retention, so that you don't run the risk of burning the bacon fat, which is not good. But since we are doing it in a wok, you don't have to do it in a wok. If you don't mind cleaning two pans, you can absolutely do it in a cast iron pan. Today I'm going to do it in the wok because I'm lazy. So the goal is, since we're doing this in our wok, I'm very, very gradually adjusting the heat of my stove, which you can kind of see it. That's down here. We want to make sure that we don't bring that too fast up. All right. Cool. Yeah, hello to everyone just tuning in. My name is Wesley. This is Woo Can Cook. If this is your first time tuning in, we're here every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 6:30 PST with new recipes out on my YouTube channel every Friday. So last Friday we came out with a recipe for a sweet and sour chicken, which is what we cooked on stream last night. Friday before that was broccoli beef. We did broccoli beef the Friday before that. And then I forget what else we did before that. But we have new recipes. Those are coming out over on the YouTube channel every Friday. So if you're interested in stuff like that, definitely make your way over to the YouTube channel and check out what's going on over there. What we're cooking today is the bacon fried rice that we did over on the channel. I want to say that was back in like July of 2020 or something like that. It was a long time ago. So if you're looking for stuff like that, definitely find your way over to the YouTube channel. Lots of fun stuff going on over there. Cool. All right. So I'm very gradually bringing up the temperature of my wok. We're at about medium-low heat right now. And what you can see here at the bottom of the wok, all of that bacon fat is starting to render into a liquid form. That's really, really important because we want all of that liquid fat so that we can reserve it for our sear later on. Without that fat, it becomes a lot more difficult to sear things because what will happen when we go to sear our wok go to sear our fried rice is that instead of searing, we're going to end up burning, which is not ideal. Yeah. Cool. What else was I supposed to say? Oh yeah, so the last thing I'll mention is, so if you're looking for it, the fried rice that we're cooking today is probably one of the more popular fried rices that we do in the food pop-up, which is also called Wu Can Cook. So if you're looking for that stuff, it lives, the schedule of where the pop-up is going to be, it lives over on my home base on the website, which is at wucancook.com/eats. So if you're trying to find out where the pop-up is going to be next, you can pop up over there. Lots of fun things going on over there. Lots of good information too. It's basically where everything lives. All right. Cool. So if you wanted at this point, you could also be doing this in a cast iron pan. I believe the original recipe that I had done, I used a cast iron pan. I've more gotten in the habit of just doing this in the wok of late, mainly because I'm lazy and I don't want to use two pans, and then I have to clean two pans, which is the goal of everything that I do, is to not cook in too many pans. RKK6, yeah, how's it going? Hello, good evening. Thank you for tuning in. Always good to see folks coming back all the time. All right. So as you can see at the bottom of my wok, there's all of this liquid bacon fat, all of that stuff. That's what we're after right there. We're going to let this go for maybe another like 20 seconds or so, and then we're going to pull this out. What I like to do is account for a little bit of carryover time too. This is going to fall over. I need more counter space. All right, so there's our rendered bacon and our bacon fat. We're going to set that aside. I also pulled it off a little bit early, so that's maybe like 10-15 seconds early. And I did that intentionally because it is also going to continue to cook because we poured it off with the bacon fat still in it. So that pork or that bacon is going to sit in that fat and it's going to keep cooking there. So I pull it off a little bit early, and otherwise you're going to end up with burnt bacon. Yeah. Oh, you're outside of Philly. Yeah, that happens a lot. Lots of folks are like, I know I see like lots of folks either on like the other side of the country, or I've seen other people like tuning in from Europe and stuff that are watching at like 3 o'clock in the morning or something. Hopefully eventually we'll be over in Philly. But for now, we're just local here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Jenny, how's it going? Yeah. Hello. Cool. So here's my wok. We've got it nice and hot. I'm going to add, this is going to be about 4 tablespoons of peanut oil. And then we're going to give it our long yao. And a long yao, that comes from Chinese cooking. Essentially what we're doing is coating our cold wok, or hot wok, in cold oil. And that gives us this nice non-stick surface. It is very, very important to make sure that you do that long yao, because if you try and cook, put cold oil in a cold wok and then bring it up to temperature, you're going to end up with a very sticky surface. So up first, these are my aromatics. That's my ginger, my garlic, and finally the whites of my green onions. And then I like to let these go for about 15 seconds, but really what we're looking for here is their aromatic qualities. So once you start smelling garlic and ginger, that's when you know you're in a good place. Finally, next up, that's my carrots going in. Wok hey, yeah. So we're gonna I usually, when I'm using raw carrots like this, I like to let it go for maybe like a minute head start. And that just gives the carrots a little bit of time to become tender because we're using the raw stuff today. If you were using frozen carrots, you could have totally skipped this step and then just throw it in later. I believe when carrots are frozen, I think they're par cooked a little bit. So they're already pretty tender once they defrost. So I'm just giving the carrots a little bit of head start before we add everything else back to the wok. All right, next up is my chicken going in. What I'm doing here is I'm being careful to make sure that the liquid in our marinade is not also going into the wok. I like to try and reserve as much of that liquid as possible. Otherwise, we're going to end up with more of a soggy and like mushy stir fry. So by reserving a lot of that liquid, we can help make sure that the chicken doesn't basically start steaming in the wok fry. So what I'm doing here is that I pushed everything to one side, and this is very useful, especially if you're cooking on a wok burner because you're not going to lose as much heat. What I'm doing is I'm basically essentially moving everything to one side and letting some of this chicken start rendering some of that fat before combining it. Yeah. Cool. So that's my chicken in the wok. We're going to let that go for maybe about 2 minutes or so, maybe a little bit less than that. What we're trying to pay attention to is we're making sure that our chicken, it doesn't have to be cooked all the way through because we are going to add a couple more things going on in that wok. But I like to look for about like 90% cooked or so to make sure that we have a nice tender piece of chicken. If you're not sure, you could also break out your meat thermometers at this point. We're looking for 165 internal. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Hello to everyone just tuning in. My name is Wesley. This is Woo Can Cook. If you haven't caught one of these streams before, we're here every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 6:30 PST. Today we're doing a fried rice that is really, really popular at our food pop-up, which is a crispy bacon fried rice. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to be cooking up some chicken right now. And then we've got some reserved bacon fat that we just finished cooking. And then we're going to combine all of that and then give it a 2.5 minute sear in the wok. And that's going to develop this nice crispy bottom layer to the rice, which is real nice and has this nice texture to it. What we've been doing in the food pop-up is we've been adding the rice to a flour tortilla and then serving it as a burrito, which has been really fun. We do that with a cilantro crema, and a little bit of pickled shallot, which is really nice. Also really filling. Yeah. You're near Ducey? Yeah, that is too far. Yeah, that's too far for a lot of people. But hopefully one day we'll be on the East Coast. Oh yeah, Jenny, is it okay to use different kinds of oil? Yeah, so today I'm using peanut oil, but I've done this recipe with many different kinds of oil. So I have done it with canola oil. My next favorite actually is grapeseed oil, which actually might be even harder to find than peanut oil. Yeah, but grapeseed oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, anything that's good for high heat. So the main thing that I recommend is to avoid things like olive oil, which is meant for low heat or low or medium heat, which is why you use it for a lot of Italian cooking. So as long as you avoid things like olive oil, you'll be in good shape. All right, so this is looking pretty good. We're not quite cooked all the way through, but we're at like 90% cooked. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm adding a little bit more peanut oil. And then here's our egg going in. And essentially our goal right now is to make sure that those eggs, they need to set a little bit. So what we're trying to do anytime that we're cooking fried rice is we need those eggs to set in sort of in the fashion of scrambled eggs. So we want large curds of scrambled egg to start developing. If we start combining stuff, what's going to happen is those eggs are going to start combining and coating our proteins. So we're going to get like egg-coated chicken, which is, well, that actually sounds really delicious. That's essentially going to turn into like an egg scramble, which is not what we're after. So we want our eggs to sort of like stand out as like independent egg curds. And we do that by making sure that it cooks in the wok separately from the rest of the stuff. So if you really wanted to, you could also pull it out of the wok fry, but I hate doing that. So you can see now that I combined it, we have like those eggs, they're starting to they're standing independently from the rest of our proteins. So we have these large, big curds of eggs that are sort of like independent from the chicken, independent from the carrots. If we had thrown it right on top, we would essentially be doing, I guess you could think of that as like a frittata. And basically what would happen is those eggs would just coat the proteins, and then we would have a little bit less independence with our eggs. Not the end of the world, but not what we're after either. All right. Here's my rice going in next, finally. As with pretty much any time that we do a fried rice, you will see me using leftover rice. So this is not rice that came out of the cooker. This has been rice that has been basically air drying for almost 24 hours. And the problem with air dried rice, at any time that you're working with air dried rice, is that it clumps up. So we have these big, large clumps of rice, like that, and like that. That's not the end of the world, but what we want to do is make sure that we break up those clumps before we start combining. Otherwise, we're going to get really clumpy fried rice, which is not good. So my main goal right now, as I add this rice in, is to make sure that we start breaking up those clumps of rice. Oops. Alright, so there's our eggs. Next up is my bacon going back into the wok. We're also adding that bacon fat in with it too, which I'm going to give it a quick toss. And at this point you can actually hear it too, so you'll notice what's happening with my fried rice now, so you can hear my wok, and it is not sizzling quite as heavily as it was before. That's okay if you're done cooking, so what we're doing right now is essentially just sort of combining things. But if we were still cooking stuff, so if we were still trying to cook our carrots, or if we were trying to cook our bacon, stuff like that, what would happen is if you hear that happen in your wok, and you're still cooking stuff, that's a real bad sign. It means that you're on your way to a really, really mushy fried rice, which is never good. By doing essentially what we just did, which is basically a bunch of batch cooking, that helps keep our fried rice nice and crispy. Finally, last up, those are my frozen peas going in. And then I'm going to give all of that a quick toss. And then lastly is our sauce base. All right. And then the last thing that I'm going to add is a little bit of sambal oelek, which is just a little bit of chili sauce. If you are particularly averse to spicy stuff, you could skip it entirely. You could use a little bit less of it. But sambal oelek is a very, very forward type of heat. So if you don't like spicy stuff, use it with caution. So at this point, I'm just being careful to sort of break up some of those larger clumps of rice that are hanging out, which I don't love. All right, and then the last thing that we're going to do is I'm going to take a little bit more peanut oil here, coat the exterior, and then we're going to let that sear for 2.5 minutes. So in the scheme of as we develop our crispy bacon fried rice, this might be the most important step because this is where we get our crispy qualities from. Without this step, you're just going to have, well, still pretty good fried rice, but not quite as good because it's not going to develop any crispiness. So what's going to happen is in order to sear that fried rice, we need to let it sit undisturbed for 2.5 minutes. Kind of the same property to how you do anything else that you've ever seared. So we do the same thing when we sear steaks. We also do the same thing with pork chops. Anything that you're searing, it essentially requires that 2.5 minutes sear undisturbed. By agitating stuff, that's how you ruin sears. So the most important step to any kind of sear is stop touching it. Don't mess with it, don't check it, don't fuck around with it. That's just gonna screw up that sear even more. Maybe the second most important step is making sure that it has lots and lots of oil in it. So if you try and sear something without enough oil, which is why I just added a little bit more peanut oil, what will happen is it's going to start burning instead of searing. So make sure that number one, that you have lots of bacon fat. If you don't have enough bacon fat, if it didn't quite render enough like ours did, you can add a little bit more oil. We're using a little bit of peanut oil, but anything that will kind of help coat that wok a little bit better. How can you wait that long? Yeah, Crystal, I know. Yeah, so this is like the most, in pretty much any recipe that requires a sear, this is the most like agitating part of the cook. Is because you basically just have to wait and kind of wonder if your fried rice is burning, which technically it is. That's basically what a sear is, basically burning. Take a shot. Yeah, actually I could do a shot. Take a shot, yeah. Oh, not quite enough time. Well, no, not quite enough time. We have 30 seconds. I don't think I can pour a shot in 30 seconds. Cool, so I'm gonna let that sear for another 22 seconds. And what's gonna happen is when we start agitating, hopefully, unless I fucked it up, but once I start agitating and like start picking stuff off of the bottom of the wok here, anything that's touching the wok, it's gonna have this nice crispy quality to it. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. There we go. All right. I'm gonna add a little bit more sauce here. Nope. Turn the fire off first. That would have been bad. blend is real smoky. There we go. How about a little butter? Yeah, you could do butter too. I don't think there's any recipe that doesn't go well with butter. All that in under 15 minutes. Was it under 15 minutes? Yeah. That actually is pretty long. When we do this in the food booth, our goal is to shoot for under 3 minutes, which is crazy. That's really fast. It's hard to cook anything that fast. Whoops. So I'm going to garnish this with my green onions. How much of it is going to my brother? Yeah, probably most of it. Like 2/3 of it, I think. He gets a lot of fried rice, though. We actually overshot on our last food booth, our last food pop-up, and then I think we had like an extra like 30 or 40 servings of fried rice, most of which we ended up throwing away. I felt really bad about throwing away all that food. But live and learn. Try not to overshoot when you run that much food. All right, let's try this. Yeah, that's real good. This is one of my favorite fried rices. It's also just really simple. Just a really basic, fundamental fried rice that I love doing. Kind of runs through, that's also like one of the reasons why I love this recipe. Because it just sort of runs through a lot of the fundamentals that go behind how to cook a fried rice. And it just sort of touches on a lot of my favorite ways of approaching a fried rice, especially if you're doing a fried rice in a wok on a home range. Also, this camera froze, sorry. Yeah. Oh, Hagatha Frisky, that's a great username, by the way. Let's get this camera back. There it is. Oh, you just missed it. Yeah, we do a lot of fried rices, actually, so that's okay. You're in good shape. We'll have more fried rice streams all the time. Cool. All right, so that's it, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Wesley. This is Wu Can Cook. If this is your first time catching one of these streams, we're here every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 6:30 PST with new recipes out on my YouTube channel every Friday. So if you haven't yet, those recipes that are coming out every Friday. Last Friday, we did a recipe for sweet and sour chicken, which is actually what we cooked on stream last night. Friday before that, I can't remember what these were anymore. Oh, broccoli beef. We did broccoli beef the Friday before that. So lots of stuff like that living up over on the YouTube channel. So if you haven't yet, definitely check out what's going on over there. We're working our way up to 4,500 subs by the end of the month. So if you want to help us hit our subscriber goal, please hop over and feed him Charo. He's the hamster that eats ramen. He only gets to eat ramen when somebody feeds him. So please subscribe. What else we got coming up? Let's see. This coming Friday is going to be... we're doing string bean chicken this coming Friday, which is fun. Lots of stir fries of late, so that's going to be a real good one. I like doing lots of stir fries because they're my favorite things to eat. So I'm glad that we're adding more stir fries to the things that we could cook on live stream now. So that's going to be fun. What else? Next up, what are we cooking on Thursday? I forget. I think we're doing a noodle dish on Thursday. So, but we're here every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 6:30 PST. Dandamian, that's probably what we're doing. Yeah, that sounds right. Are we doing dandamian on Thursday? Let me check. Beef chow fun. We're doing beef chow fun on Thursday, which is going to be fun. But we do dandan noodles quite a bit. I think I did dandan noodles, but that was maybe 2 weeks ago. There's a recipe for that over on YouTube too. Yeah. Robert, yeah, thank you. Thanks everyone for tuning in. What else? Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be here doing dishes, and I'm probably going to start workshopping a crema and some pickled shallots. So I'll be around here doing dishes. Let me know if you have any questions And definitely tune in this coming Thursday for our beef chow fun, and check out the YouTube channel for the recipes for all of this stuff. So this particular fried rice was a recipe that we did a couple of months ago. I think that was back in like July or August of 2020. But also the last thing I'll mention is that this particular fried rice comes from the menu at our food pop-up. So if you're here in the San Francisco Bay Area, we're at the Alameda Antiques Fair every first Sunday, and the Hayward Farmers Market every second and fourth Saturdays, starting in August. So if you're looking for this particular fried rice, you can definitely come find our pop-up and find all of the fried rices. So this one is probably the most popular one. We also have a Hawaiian Spam fried rice, we have kimchi fried rice, and then there's the Gochujang fried rice. And what we've started doing is putting these fried rices inside of burrito tortillas, and then we kind of wrapping them into burritos, which makes them a little bit easier to kind of eat on the go. That's usually served with a cilantro crema and a pickled shallot, which is really, really tasty. Yeah. Beef chow fundra, yeah. Cool. All right, thanks everyone. Let me know if you have any questions. Definitely check out the YouTube channel, and if you're here in the Bay, come find this fried rice this coming next Sunday, 2 Sundays, 3 Sundays, first Sunday of August, so not a couple of Sundays from now. All right, thanks everyone. I'll see you soon.
If you think that you don't know, never mind that you still don't love yourself. No, you can find it from somebody else. No, everybody's got to grow up. Sometimes funny how we shoot the move. Still, when we fight it, baby. Alright, never mind. Yes, I found it now. I'm finally in love with love, and it's bringing me down. You want to be, baby, yes. You want to be, baby. Everybody wants to be different. I still got streets, but they don't love me like they used to love it. And I'm reminded of how bad I used to want it. And yes, I still got streets, but more like I took it of my 20s, and it's breaking me down. Want to be, baby, yes, sir. You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. You're real sweet as strawberry wine. You're as warm as a glass of brandy. Darling, I'll stay stoned on your lip all the time. I live for love, all the same old places. Found the bottom of the barrel was always down. But you poured out your heart, and I didn't want to waste it. There's nothing like love to give me you're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. You're as sweet as strawberry wine. Ooh, yeah. You're as warm as a glass of brandy. Darling, I'll stay stoned on your love all the time. You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. You're as sweet as strawberry wine. You're as warm as a glass of brandy. Darling, I'll stay stoned on your love all the time.
Keep my hands on myself. Think I'll dust them off, put them back up on the shelf. Case my little baby girl is in need. Am I coming out of left field? Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. I've been feeling it since 1966 now. Might be over now, but I feel it still. Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. Let me kick it like it's 1986 now. Might be over now, but I feel it still. Got another mouth to feed. Leaving with the babysitter, mama call the grave digger. Gone with the falling leaves. Am I coming out of left field? Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. I've been feeling it since 1966 now. Might have had your fill, but I feel it still. Ooh, I'm a rebel just for kicks now. Let me kick it like it's 1986 now. Might be over now, I can feel it still. We can fight a war for peace. Give in to that easy living. Goodbye to my hopes and dreams. Stop flipping for my enemies. We could wait until the walls come down. It's time to give a little to the kids in the middle, but oh.